one match out of the way. Still 4 more to come. And if you thought that was a long one, it's everybody's favourite coming up next. But it is with a twist, in fairness, so it should be okay. It's going to be Casie versus Pavel. It's going to be Casie with the unusual build of this Bomb Warrior, the build that Orange has also brought, and Pavel with Bomb Warrior that I recognise from somewhere, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Have you seen this deck anywhere before?
Oh, I think Pavel's deck is just amazing. Whoever designed it is a genius. Very smart.
Yeah, and if you're not quite sure what the in-joke is here, it's the deck that Gallon played to second place in Vegas last week.
There is one card change, but I may have messaged Pavel when he asked me about it to change that card. So, yeah. It's a good list. Everything about it beautiful. It's totally perfect.
Which is the card he changed?
He changed one slam from the tertiary for another super collider.
Absolutely massive difference there. Let's see if it makes any difference at all for Pavel in this match where he won't use that deck.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about this deck a lot. I think it's very good in an open field. It might be slightly worse in this like special tournament where you're playing against, 2 exact people. Maybe Pavel could do a lot of preparation and be like, hey, my opponent is probably not going to be on a mech deck. So maybe the secondary is not as good.
But Casey's deck is just unusual. We looked at this yesterday, but obviously Fibonacci, sort of the designer of what we are calling Fast Bomb Warrior, I believe.
Fast Bomb Warrior. Fibonacci, a warrior expert from North America, got top 5 legend with this deck. And suddenly we're seeing it in Grandmasters. And I'm not sure if it's called Fast Bomb Warrior because it's supposed to be a quicker build, or if it's Fast Bomb Warrior because it's going to be fast out of the meta after game 1.
Wow.
We will see. No, I mean...
You're allowed a personal opinion on that. Say what you truly think.
I actually don't think this deck is that bad. I think that it's just very different from other styles of decks. You're looking at a very weird mid-game where instead of just playing for tempo, playing like a 3-3 every single time, you're actually doing stuff like Armor Smith and Battle Rage and Cool Taskmaster.
I mean, I thought Cool Taskmaster had rotated, to be perfectly honest. I know that classic cards don't rotate, but I was beginning to wonder. I haven't seen it for a year. But we have got that sort of card draw package alongside an Azalina, which again seems to make no sense at face value, but obviously you just use your brain and go for what you want to go for.
I mean, Azalina is a game plan that is just so hard to describe in one sentence. Generally, what has to happen is your opponent has to play a lot more aggressively with their resources. Like if it gets to the late stages of the game and Pavel just holds back everything, like if he holds back his Elysiana, for example, until like, 1 or 2 cards are left in his deck, Casie can just capitalize on that, play his Azalina, and then say, okay, we're actually back to even now.
So you get this weird game of Elysiana chicken where you want to play it late enough that it's worthwhile, but not too late that it just gets...
Yeah, sometimes you just play it with like 4 or 5 cards left in your deck because you say, hey, if I do it now, my opponent doesn't have that advantage in fatigue, so I'll still end up winning.
And the reason I think you in particular describing this deck as a bit of a risk is because if on turn 17 you start drawing Armor Smiths and Cool Taskmasters and nothing to go with them, they're just useless cards.
I think that's when you want to play Azalina, is when you have like a handful of dead cards. So it's much more early game focused. It's a deck that says, I want to win on turn 7 by playing Blastmaster Boom and killing my opponent, I think that kind of game plan lends itself really nicely to this style of cards. Armor Smith turn 2 and a Cruel Taskmaster, you're hitting your opponent in the face for 3.
Yeah, and that is relevant. I mean, when you very first described this to me, or when people started doing this a few weeks ago, it's like, is that really obvious? Like, doing 3 damage against a warrior, does that matter? But it snowballs. If suddenly they're on 16 and you're on 32, the play on 16 has to get so defensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think the warrior matchup can go a lot of ways. Obviously, Casie wants to take it a more aggressive line. However, with the Azalina in his deck, he is saying, if this does go into a control game plan, I can still force my opponent into awkward spots where he has to play stuff that he doesn't want to play. Because if he doesn't play it, I get it with the Azalina.
So as that first match took a long time, let's have a quick recap of where the players are standing in their tables. And again, on the left there, Fino, we're just going to ignore that he exists from now on until the playoffs. He's done his job. Probably needs to win like 1 more match along the line. But on the other side, look at the importance of this. Pavel on 2 and 6 is by no means out of this. He can pick up 2 wins this weekend. And on the other side, Casie, even though he's 4-4, which is fine, he could find himself right at the bottom if he loses the games this weekend.
I think that Pavel really needs to win pretty much every single series from here on out. He's not out yet, but he still needs to pull it together.
But you'd rather be 2 and 6 in that division than, say, Silvername's position in the other division where there are too many people on good scores.
It's a lot closer in Division B than Division A. We actually have 5 people on the record of 4 and 4
which is pretty nuts. And again, on the other side, Psycho doing the same thing as Fino, basically just destroying the field quite happily, removing all but one person in his wake.
Psycho is just good too.
Psycho is possibly even better than Fino, even though he's dropped one.
Yeah.
I think he may play more ladder games more consistently than anybody in the world, whilst simultaneously having 23 hours sleep a day.
What are you talking about? He lost one series in Hearthstone. He's washed up.
Yeah, he's done. I mean,
He's nowhere even close to Fino.
Imagine being judged on just one game in your life.
He's just playing too passively this season.
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
How does Dr. Boom safely light the fuse thing?
I have no idea.
He uses the longest match of the day. Let's get on with it and have a look at how this turns out.
I have no comeback.
And Dr. Boom has shown up in Pavel's hand.
You definitely keep it.
Yeah, strangely enough, anything that's got 7 in the top left-hand corner
he got both
seems to be a keep.
Pavel's missing just a couple cards to have like pretty much the best hand you can have. That's one of them. Town Crier turn 1 with 2 booms in hand. That's incredible.
Yeah, this is looking pretty nice. From Casey's side, of course, he's expected to have a slightly less good draw because he's got a lot of cards that set up that draw with the Acolytes. He should be okay for a while. But he's going to need those Acolytes to do a lot of good work.
Well, they both have 2 booms in their deck. And in the mulligan phase, I mean, I guess since Pavel's going second, he has a slightly higher chance of getting a boom because he just draws an extra card. However, I'd say that pretty equal decks in terms of what are good draws.
Is there anything else you keep as your first card that you keep apart from the 2 booms? Or does Casey got a hard read at this point?
You definitely keep Town Crier.
Okay.
I think that when you have like 1 boom, then a lot of other cards become good. So like if you have Blastmaster, then you pretty much always keep Branch Caliber and Clockwork Goblin, because you just play it as soon as possible. If your opponent can't answer it, which they very often cannot, you kind of just win the game.
But a 1 keep and that card wasn't played on turn 1 is a pretty good read for Casey. He needs to get a move on.
Yeah.
Because some matchups, like again, we talked about the Hunter one, it's not so clear what's going on when your opponent maybe 1 keeps. But in this one, you've got a very, very defined idea of what you need to do and that you're in trouble very quickly. So with that in mind, we're going to see Casey probably get the maximum out of this Acolyte in terms of card draw that he can.
Casey has 2 Cruel Taskmasters in his hand. Those are in his deck.
Those are cards that he chose to play.
He is playing them.
And again, we talked about it at the start of the show, but that was quite a while ago now. So just a reminder that you do play 14 games in Grandmasters, and if you do just constantly bring a net deck or whatever each week, something that people are used to, you can become predictable. So you do have to take the occasional executive decision to do something strange. And playing Cruel Taskmaster is certainly that.
It's definitely strange. I agree with that. Town Crier pulls the other Militia Commander from Pavel's deck.
Yeah, just nice things happening here for Pavel.
Can I ask you something? Would you have played Dynamatic here? There's a 3-2 Acolyte in play, but a Dynamatic bulk is before.
I'm happy for my opponent to have... If I've got 2 booms, I'm happy for my opponent to have fewer cards. Just let my booms do the work.
I mean, I feel like I probably would still play the Dynamatic there, even though my opponent gets 2 extra cards.
Okay.
I feel like tempo still matters quite a bit, and giving my opponent resources is really fine. Now, Pavel obviously did not have that happen. He got a rush minion, he could just rush it in. But, like, he also didn't have the Dynamatic, so it's just, like, an interesting thing to do.
No, I understand thoroughly. It's very much you need to get that tempo. Just because he's got the 2 booms is the reason I wouldn't. If he hadn't got the 2 booms himself, I feel that the tempo would be even more important.
Sure.
Because he knows he's got the swing turns coming up. But it's interesting, obviously, you're quite good at this deck.
It's just like an interesting scenario because like you don't often find yourself in a spot where like Dynamatic clears but also gives your opponent a benefit. You know, like a Turning Rover is a card that people play, but that's a mech, so you just never like come up in a spot where Dynamatic could give your opponent armor, for example. It's really only Acolyte of Pain. Pavel just taking it a little bit slow. I like it quite a bit. Probably going coin Acolyte as well.
Yeah, got to turn 6, not needed to use the coin for his 7 drops now. Everything just slides nicely into place. Casey, though, does have some play coming back. Now he's drawn Boom, and the Grom's a perpetual threat if he can get into it a bit quicker. He actually gets the first Boom, of course, which is also a big deal.
Yeah, but it's not the Boom that he really wants to see. What he wants to see is Blastmaster. He's the aggressive deck. That's usually how the game pans out. He's now playing a defensive strategy because he does not have his own Blastmaster.
And
Pavel wins in the defensive long run because of Elysiana.
yes.
Now, it does get interesting because of the Azalina in Casey's deck, but generally I found that Pavel can kind of dictate the pace of the match at this point.
Very important play there to play the Blastmaster with. Don't need to be greedy. A couple of bombs is fine. A 7/7 is wonderful. And you're playing Dr. Boom Mad Genius next turn, having wasted Casey's turn.
This could end up really badly. Oh
my goodness.
No. I think it goes without saying that that is not what Casie wanted to see.
So how many of those does Casie need before he does the Casie slow clap? 3? It's something that always comes up at some
I would
point.
do it after 1, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly entitled. I think over time, the slow clap's got more and more delayed from Casie.
Pavel decides to just play a 7-mana card. That makes sense to me. Casie just in a really awkward
Wasting
spot.
the mana in the process.
Oh, Dr. Boom on turn 8. What a terrible play.
Yeah, he should have saved a 1-drop.
We should have just shield slammed our own 7/7 to use all of the mana. So even though Casie is kind of in a defensive spot right now, I think he still has to play aggressively. I think he has to set up something like Snip Snap Battle Rage, for example.
Yeah.
Just a way to get cards. He needs to get his Blastmaster Boom. He needs to find like another Wrench Caliber and just be able to aggressively push Pavel out of this game. Right now, his hand is not going to do that.
Yeah, an Omega Assembly coming next turn for Pavel is going to be a massive deal. Even though it looks like he's currently not got too much going on, that's just going to change so quickly.
Pavel decides not to go face with his weapon. Kind of makes sense. You don't want to get magnetized out of the game. I think if it wasn't a mech, I really like just going upstairs with the hero power. But this way it does play around stuff like Snip Snap.
Fascinating to me as an outside viewer how Omega Devastator has become played less and less in these decks in recent times.
I think that Omega Devastator, a lot of times is a Chillwind Yeti. Chillwind Yeti is actually quite good.
But that's where I was going to go next.
Yeah.
Chillwind Yeti's not a bad card. Especially when it's a mech.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you just get the Omega Devastator off of your Omega Assemblies or your hero power, you know.
Okay, so you end up with
just
3
rip
or
the good
4
one.
of them too often.
Yeah, just rip the good one.
Play the 1-drop Devastator instead of the 4-drop Devastator.
Yeah. That's a little bit facetious. Omega
That's fine,
Devastator
that
is
suits
still,
my personality.
Yeah, no, I think that like it can find its way into main decks. I don't think it's a bad card at all. I think Omega Devastator is quite a good card. It just like sometimes the lists that you build are not like purposely designed around it, you know.
As time has gone by, the mid to late game controllers become less and less relevant in his deck and killing your opponent, which is why Casey's got the deck he's got. It's become a lot more relevant.
Omega Devastator is actually a card that's kind of good when you're trying to kill your opponent. You just play a 4 or 5 on turn 4.
Sure, yeah, it's pretty handy.
But the problem is you need to have like the 1 into the 3 into the 4 for that to actually like matter. If you have like if you're missing that and then you play Omega Devastator, then it doesn't do nearly as much.
If you're playing Acolytes and Cruel Taskmasters, Battle Rages, you're much more likely to go 1 into 3 into 6, 7, 7, 7, more 7s.
Yeah.
And they're dead, and you don't need it on 10 because they haven't got any health.
Yeah, because it's not even turn 10.
Because it doesn't get there. Which is why we're calling it Fast Deck. Obviously, there's a certain irony in calling any warrior deck the Fast Anything deck.
I feel like Bomb Warrior actually is a pretty aggressive deck. I think you can play it super aggressively and it's actually good. And
we've seen that. We've seen that in
and
players
people
doing well.
confuse the versatility of it as being a control deck. The fact that you have Dr. Boom lets you play that slow game plan if it pops up. You know, I don't kill my opponent. All right, I'm going to play my hero card.
Yeah,
We're on a stage 2.
I've seen debates about whether it's a control deck or mid-range deck, but actually I think trying to categorize decks exactly like that is just a bad thing. It is just Bomb Warrior deck that can have a lot of ways to play.
What I will say is that it has multiple ways of winning the game, which is super good. It's not a one-trick pony. It has multiple ways of winning. A deck with that is usually better than a deck that only has one way to win.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, obviously, like a combo deck can sometimes skirt outside that, where its only way of winning is just so consistent that it's good enough. But I think when you're just playing like a pretty fair deck with some powerful cards, having multiple avenues to victory is important.
I mean, it wasn't a fair deck, but Malygos Druid,
Sure.
the best players in the world, won with that 5 different ways. It wasn't something you could even learn. You had to just be good.
Even that, yeah, exactly. That was a combo deck at its heart.
Yeah.
Had, you know, a ton of ways of winning.
And it won with combo, what, 10% of the time? The rest of the time it found just unique and weird things to do.
Yeah, I mean, well, it had Ultimate Infestation. That was a pretty easy way to win.
Yeah, it had ramp, it had cards.
Yeah.
But it began life as a bit of a meme combo deck, and then people realized, hang on, we've discovered this thing that's far beyond that.
Tempo good.
A llama bot. Always an absolute disaster in this deck.
Yeah.
It's like a negative card.
It's funny. Well, you know what's funny about it? Specifically against Azalina, you can hold it and make your opponent think that you have mech value, and then they rip the Azalina, they see the alarm bot, it's like, ha, you're stuck with the bad hand too now.
And obviously the thing being you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's just always in your hand. So your hand size is already at a premium, and now you've got a 9-card hand.
Execute off the top. That is actually a really good pickup for Casie here.
This is one thing that makes me really happy about this deck. We've discussed the things that are weird about it, but a warrior not playing execute has felt really strange to me throughout the current meta. It's just such a great card that I'd like it to be in my decks. I understand why it's sometimes.
He just went face with the super collider.
It's a point of damage.
Always push the 1.
Always push the 1.
Always.
You beat me to. You just took the matter into your own hands before I really had the chance to get there myself.
That's an excellent play by Casie. Best play I've seen in my entire life. Going face with super collider.
Yeah.
That's why you put it in the deck, actually. Just deal 1 damage to your opponent over 3.
It's like a trade secret.
Yeah. He's setting it up. Now that Pavel's at 31, he has to be spooked. He might have a red life total soon.
Yeah, he's going to gain 7 this turn because of it, though, so it's fine.
Maybe he misses the button. He just doesn't see that it's there. From Pavel's perspective, you can just take it pretty slowly. Turning him over the 1/1, hero power, maybe equip a wrench caliber. Casie does not run weapon destruction in his deck. I think that's important to point out. So you can just like develop the wrench caliber at some point.
Yeah, it's time to start getting some cards out of your hand. It's the time where you're starting to get a little bit worried that Casey's going to trade his garbage in for your good stuff. So
Just playing. Generally, when I'm in a spot like this, where both people have Dr. Boom up, I want to... Oh, he does miss the button.
Wow.
That is very weird.
Just taking a quick look at Pavel here, and you can't generalize people by like how they look all the time, but he looks significantly more focused than he has in a long time to me today. Like the eyes are sort of all over the screen, really working stuff out, whereas 1 or 2 times maybe he was still getting himself back into Hearthstone a little bit. Didn't play a lot in 2018.
Sure.
But to me, he's starting to look like a guy who's really starting to zone back into that world champion sort of level again.
Well,
I'm
going to disagree with you specifically with that turn. I think that if there's any deck that I understand right now in the meta, I would say it's Bomb Warrior.
Yeah, I think you probably do.
But when you're playing as a control deck, you want to use your minions as removal, right? They all have rush, so you can kind of just take it slow. Your opponent has to develop because the onus is on them to kill you. If you do something just like Hero Power, Wrench Caliber, Pass, right? You're still developing your game plan. You get your weapon equipped, but you're also not giving your opponent a way to like actively remove the board. Like look at what Casie just did right there. He killed all 3 of those minions, got a Battle Rage off. Pavel missed 7 armor. He doesn't have the weapon equipped.
I think, though, the fact he's hovering over this Lysiana shows what he's thinking. It's like he is very scared.
Ooh, he just goes for it now.
Yeah, I think he's got to read. It's harder for us, mate. I think he's got to read that Casie has Lysiana.
Sure.
Yeah, Lysiana in his hand.
What I will say is that
if he's got that read, then what he did last turn makes a lot more sense.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
Well, even then, like, Casie just hasn't played a lot of the powerful cards in his deck. He hasn't played Blastmaster.
Sure.
He hasn't played Snip Snap. He hasn't played Grom. If he if he Azalina's now,
yeah,
it's very likely that he runs over one of those cards when he Azalina's Pavel's hand.
But that Snip Snap and that Grom have been there a long time. Maybe he's thinking Blastmaster would have been played by now and hasn't.
Sure.
So I can see how he could get a wrong read there. And then what he's done the last 2 turns, which is the earlier Lysiana, the dumping all the mediumly good minions out my hand, sort of adds up.
But even then, it's like it's kind of crazy to me because like if you're going for that Lysiana game plan so quickly, I think you still want the defensive tools in the matchup.
Sure.
Because if your opponent Azalina's you, that means they're giving up all of their good resources that they're going to win the game with, like Blastmaster Boom. And I think when it comes to like hand versus hand, I think Pavel's hand beats itself. Okay. When you're in, when you're the one winning in fatigue.
Yeah.
So I don't really think you're worried too much about giving him a couple extra minions when you can just play your Lysiana if that's his game plan.
Decision has been made, though. Let's see how that works out for him. Obviously, the pressure is on him now to get it done.
He's just giving him 5 armor.
Light the fuses!
Pavel definitely valuing... Oops!
He didn't... Does he not realize that Elysiana is a...
Casey's enjoying that moment.
Well, I feel like that was a... That had to have been a missequence.
I mean, how often do you play Dynamatic and it hits your own minions? That's the problem. I've seen
Very often.
No, how often do you
This would be
actually
a
do
good
it?
time
Oh,
for a nap.
not very often.
So it's something that can just slip your mind.
Yeah.
You just straight up go, oh, this card only targets my opponent's minions. It's fine. And then you do something like this, and your opponent has a good laugh.
And I feel like we had to use the Warpath as well. We're running out of tools that actually like fight for the board. Warpath is something that is like crucial, absolutely crucial. That had to have been.
It's literally the brain slip, which is
It had
it
to have been
targets
brain
my
slip,
opponent's
yeah.
minions only, I think.
Casie just needs to remember here that there are not that many bombs in Pavel's deck. He went Elysiana last turn, or 2 turns ago.
Wow. What is that handsome?
That's my favorite voice line in the game. When you play Blastmaster Boom versus your opponent's Dr. Boom. It's not my favorite because
Yeah,
it means that your opponent has a good card, but in terms of humor, I find it very funny.
Casey found... He's still enjoying the fact that that Dynamatic was...
Why is he playing his shield slams? I feel like at this time,
Casey can't handle this.
because when you play Elysiana, your game plan is it shifts to just fatigue, right?
Yeah.
You are the control deck. I feel like Pavel has like clearly the control hand this entire time, and it's like he still keeps trying to force his aggressive strategy. That is, it's just not going to work nearly as well as playing for control. Just playing for fatigue.
So he only asked you for the list.
Yikes! I didn't say that. For the record.
I don't know what you mean. And here comes Win. Haven't
Casey
seen this
finds
since
himself-
2015.
This is a 1 in 8 for just lethal. Pavel
Yeah.
could just lose the game right on the spot. How did we find ourselves in this spot? We missed 5 armor earlier. Okay, phew. Pavel is still alive. However, he does not have any ways.
To not get zapped.
Yeah.
He just gets zapped next
Casey just
turn.
wins. What just happened? I thought that Pavel was so far ahead.
Yeah, he decided to
That was...
make it interesting.
I don't know what that was.
That was your 2016 World Championship. Chance for Casey, though. Big deal winning this one if he can get the second game
Yes.
under his belt.
I
Because
think that Casey was very unfavored in this series.
And he did lose that brawl, remember?
Not in this series, but in this match.
He
Sure.
did lose a brawl to a 7-7.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Even
like
from that point, I think that Casey was like, even before that happened, I thought Casey was unfavored. After that, I don't know what to say.
I guess we'll be checking Twitter later to find out
Yeah.
what we missed.
Exactly.
Seems to be the in thing to do. Casey going to 1-0, and now the players will be relying on potential switches, but not a great deal for them here. I mean, there is not a great deal for Pavel, but Casey's got some good options.
I think that Casey really likes his switch to his tertiary, where he gets
Yep.
an Archivist Elysiana. From my perspective, well, I don't know Casey's list as well as Pavel's, obviously, like it's just very new. But I think that in the Bomb Warrior Mirror, there are 3 cards that matters.
Okay.
It is Blastmaster Boom is number 1,
Yep.
Dr. Boom is number 2,
Yep.
Elysiana is number 3, and then I guess Snip Snap is like number 4, but like it's Blastmaster, Dr. Boom, Elysiana, Snip Snap.
Sure.
And just being able to add this extra card that like actually impacts the matchup with Archivist Elysiana, I think is going to benefit Casey in the long run. You know, I
And
think
we are getting
that'll-
word that he has switched
Yes.
to that tertiary
Okay.
deck. No surprise at all, but just to confirm it.
Remember that he does cut Azalina from his deck, so the game plan is going to shift dramatically from both sides. I think that Pavel will not play as aggressively this time. I think Casey will probably play a bit more aggressively.
And this is back to the Bomb Warrior
Or-
match now that we all know and love from
Yes.
the last 4 or 5 weeks. If you do want to check out these decks for yourself, remember you can go to the Battle.net site, go to the Grandmasters section. All the decks, all the information on schedules and standings are all up there. So if you want to try these decks out for yourself, maybe in Open Cups, maybe just on ladder,
Yeah.
go to that site, have a look at all these decks.
There's also a snazzy QR code right now if you want to pull out your phone and just like grab the decks.
Can I do that?
Do our reader?
Am I allowed to do that now?
Well, it's on your screen.
No, but I've got to get the phone.
Well, we're not playing Hearthstone right now. We're casting.
You're not.
Are you playing Hearthstone?
Hang on. Don't want to get caught out here. No, I'm just watching as well.
All right.
Just chilling with you. We are going to get into game number 2, and Pavel's going to have to sharpen up.
Yes, I
I
think
think
that
we're comfortable saying that.
I think that Pavel is a lot less favored in game 2 of the series. I still think that it's super close. You know, but it goes from like 60-40 in Pavel's favor to 50-50-ish. Casie has a blistering fast start with 1 into 2 into 3 into 4.
And one thing Casey's always been good at, which is why of all the people here, if he's going to bring a weird deck, if someone's going to bring a weird deck, it's going to be Casie. One thing he's always been good at is just picking up a deck, playing it like twice, and knowing how it works. Really, really clearly, straight away.
He's just going face with this. I love it.
Yeah, there's so many reasons to call this the fast Bomb Warrior deck.
Oh, but immediately he gets punished by the Snip Snap off the top. That is a huge draw from Pavel.
I see what you did there. You're filling in for a certain someone who's getting married this weekend.
Yeah. How did I do?
B+. plus.
B+? All right,
Yeah, it wasn't a huge result.
That's a passing. That's like way more than passing.
But you've got to ask the man himself, really.
That's fair.
But he's not here, so I'll just leave it. So Casey does get to deal with all that stuff, but obviously it's cost him so much.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at how this game has panned out just in the first couple turns, Pavel loves to see how this is turning out. Clockwork Goblin, probably kill a 2/2. Just play for board control here.
How much do you have to respect the battle rages here as the game goes onwards? If you can like put your opponent to 29, do you just avoid doing so?
I mean, maybe. I really think that Pavel doesn't really have the opportunity to do so.
Yes,
That's not
doesn't matter
to worry about. Yeah.
The bombs are being ordered.
Play stuff so it's in play.
Such a simple way. Why didn't people think of that before? You
Can we just
use
the
that,
last 3 turns have been a Clockwork Goblin.
That's a lot of bombs being ordered.
Actually, no, last 2 turns. How am I so dumb?
It takes practice. You're getting there. A couple more times on the desk, and you'll just be like the rest of us. Slowly just drag you down to our level.
Excellent. Pavel picks up Blastmaster Boom, best card in the deck in this matchup.
Better even than Mr. Boom, Mad Genius of Doctors.
Well, would you rather have Mr. Boom or Master Boom? I guess it's Dr. Boom.
It is Dr. Boom.
They both have like really nice titles. It's a very well educated goblin.
Yeah, he really is. He's a bit crazy though.
Do you think he's like mad as in insane or just mad because he's angry?
Probably both. I mean, you'd be angry too if everybody had just hated you for an entire year of Hearthstone.
Yeah. I mean, it's not called Mr. Boom Sane Idiot. It's Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
Yeah. So he's angry and also crazy.
Yeah. Maybe he's happy because he's being played so much.
I mean, he's probably having a lot of fun with all the boom bots that he can just unleash all over Twitch in general recently.
Pavel picks up another huge draw.
Definitely better.
Thank you. A-. I give myself an A-.
And better timing.
Yeah.
And we've got like 14 more matches this weekend for you to absolutely perfect that.
Yeah.
And then you'll be replaced by the man himself. We won't be able to tell the difference.
Do you remember that skit with a bunch of admirables?
No.
There was a skit
And if I did, I'd
during
say no anyway.
championships. Okay, yeah, that's fair. There were like multiple skips during like each of the championships last year, and they're all like incredibly funny. You can find them somewhere on the Hearthstone Esports Twitter, but if you haven't seen those videos, I'd recommend checking them out.
Yeah, the level of insanity required to be, I don't know, Dr. Admirable, Mad Genius,
Yes.
is pretty high.
Admirable is truly a mad genius.
I mean, literally, you can just have a whisper of a suggestion of something that might be slightly funny, and suddenly you've got a 30-minute series with 9 parts on your hands.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we'll do this for the first episode, and then it'll transition, and you're like, where did that come from? I only said one word?
He is a master storyteller.
He really is.
Pavel has
What better
to-
time to sell stories
Yeah.
than during a Bomb Warrior Mirror, when
Yeah.
one player has all the 7 drops and the other one has Snip Snap?
Well, Snipsnap's
This
a
would
good
be a
card.
good time for a
Don't make fun
master
of it like
plan.
that.
Is that one
I
or
take
two?
offense to that. What?
Is that 1 or 2 times that I baited you into getting upset about Snipsnap?
I think we're at like 1.5 right now.
Okay, we'll on about 12 by the end of this weekend. As Casie
That's the
suffering
worst
quite
one.
strongly there, though. He was getting ready to draw quite a bunch of cards.
Well, I mean, the Clockwork Goblin Living would have been amazing.
Yeah.
The Acolyted Pain would have been way better than a 2/2. Pavel did cut the Spellbreaker from his primary list. So Casey's just saying, I'm going to make the biggest thing. It's 9 mana for you, so you do not have a Mega Devastator next turn.
Excuse the silence. I was just looking at Pavel's secondary deck, which is not aimed at this at all, but double EMP and a Spellbreaker in 2 hours is actually quite amusing if you wanted to run it in the mirror.
Yeah. It's very good against specifically Snipsnap. If you really hate it... Well, okay. Well, I want to bring up something really quickly.
Yeah.
Trading in here with the boom bots seems very questionable. I don't think we actually want to kill this. This dying is bad for us.
Okay.
Because he just gets 6 1/1s, and then we lost 4 1/1s.
Yeah.
It's
Job done.
so...
You want to kill those with the end of a warpath, so you want to kill off the minion and then have 2 mana left and wipe out the 1/1s with that in the ideal world.
Well, now we just take like 5 on the backswing, and it's really gross, I would say.
That's what I mean. He set up the warpath for next turn, but he could have set up a turn where he does it all in one go and doesn't have to deal with it this turn.
You take like the same amount of damage.
Does now go into his Acolyte with a warpath though, gets something from it.
Casie did not pick up any of the cards that like really punish what Pavel did. If you got like 2 magnetizes, let's say,
Oh yeah.
a lot more awkward. Or even just like 1 Snipsnap. Imagine Casie just gets 1 Snipsnap.
And then you just go through the whole process again.
Yeah.
Gonna work out okay for Pavel though here.
Let the pain speak to me.
His Battle Rage seems to just sit in the hand for such a long amount of time.
I feel like I noticed that as well, where it feels very much like a dead card. You know, you think that in the early game, if you like play a bunch of stuff, cool Taskmaster it, you know, Acolytes value trades, Militia Commanders value trades, you might get value out of it, but it just never seems to pan out.
And I know we've had the discussion about this isn't a pure control deck, but if you can't set up a Battle Rage in the mirror, which matchups are you setting up the Battle Rage in? When are you going to have the time? I guess if you're playing against a deck where you've nearly stabilized and you just draw 3 more cards to finish a game off, but then there's other ways of doing that.
It seems specifically in this matchup, it's kind of just been a dead card. What's really funny is that from Pavel's side, a Battle Rage right now would be sweet.
Right, he hasn't even been trying to set it up.
Yeah. Why are we not pressing the button?
Doesn't like that 7 armor button.
But you should. It's good.
Yeah, that seemed to be your lesson 101, is health matters in this matchup.
So much.
Casie
Casey's pretty happy to see that.
Yeah.
Not even using the execute, a lot of restraint, I like it.
Yeah, when these are going close to fatigue, now they've sort of cancelled out each other's early exchanges, so you've both got boom, that's always a sign you're going to fatigue as well. Every little bit of value you can get out of your cards by being that little bit greedy is really good for you.
Yeah, I think you just need to pace yourself if you're Casie at this point.
Plan.
You have a life lead. You've seen your opponent's Blastmaster boom.
Something else that I've only just realised is Casie is not playing at absolute lightning speed.
That is interesting.
He's playing quickly, but he's not playing Casie speed.
I mean, I'm actually really happy to see this.
Me too.
I think that Casey's... Oh, he just had 2 really good options. That was pretty lightning speed. Omega Devastator was also like a huge consideration.
Yeah, I mean, he's not messing about.
Yeah,
He's not, yeah.
But I have noticed that he's been playing a little bit slower. I think that Casie is someone that is very smart, very intuitive at this game. I'd say he spots the right play 95% of the time within the
Wow.
first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But very often does he not think about it more. You know, he gets it right 95% of the time, but he doesn't take like the extra 70 seconds or whatever to figure out if there's like some 5%.
Yeah, because imagine if you were that quick at spotting the correct play, all the extra time you've enabled yourself to find to look for other things. But I get the impression he's... I know with fast players in general, if you make them play too slowly, they go to pieces. They start second-guessing themselves, that sort of thing. But if he can just take these extra few seconds on a regular basis over many weeks, he will find a play or two where he was going to make a mistake. And by mistake, I mean there's an improvement, not...
Yeah,
he's not going to do anything outright dumb, but...
Sure. I mean, well, you can call a mistake something that can be improved upon. Sometimes mistakes aren't like, oh, I just totally botched this. It's
So I overlooked this thing.
yeah, or maybe you just like miss 1 damage in a 25 damage turn.
Yeah.
I think taking your time in those kinds of spots really matters. But I do agree with you that sometimes if you have a certain way or rhythm of playing the game, trying to deviate from that can be really bad if you haven't practiced it.
Yeah, I remember Zixo was the original sort of super fast player, and he just couldn't enjoy it or take it seriously and play too slowly. And there is a benefit if you're playing against somebody who is a slow player and you're playing quickly, you really heap the pressure onto them.
Yep.
But anyway, point being, it's good to see him taking a little bit longer.
Sometimes it is good to play lightning quickly. If your opponent is the one that's making hard decisions, but you just have like, okay, I'm going to play like my biggest minion, hit you in the face. If you do that as quickly as possible, you actually don't give your opponent a lot of time to figure it out. You know, good players will often think on their opponent's turn. It's actually a very important thing in Hearthstone, is just thinking about what your opponent is going to do and then just like figuring out the initial setups for each line that they take.
I'm still trying to get to the thinking stage.
Snip Snap is so good.
But yeah, Snip Snap is pretty good, especially when you start doing this sort of nonsense with it, where you're going to be gaining armor, making men, getting 1/1s, every single thing you want to do.
I want to rephrase what I think about Snip Snap. It's not that I think it's the best card in the game. It's just it's a very solid playable card at every single point. You know, when you have something that is a decent play that's also very versatile, where you can play it on turn 3, it's okay, on turn 6, it's okay, on turn 9, it's okay, that's when you start getting a good card. Cards that are good at a lot of phases of the game.
I mean, easy for you to say. Blood Mage Thalnos has been a staple card in many decks for many years. And when explaining to newer players, like, what does this card do? Well, the answer's not a lot.
Yeah.
It does a bit of everything consistently well.
Yeah, I mean, like, in the late game, it cycles for another card, so you're not, like, too unhappy to see it. In the mid game, you know, you just play it on turn 2. It's not a big minion. You're not really fighting for tempo with it, but...
In some decks, it just gives you that extra point of damage you need to kill a minion or do something. It's just lovely.
Yeah. That's a really good comparison. Although I think Snip Snap is a bit better than Blood Mage Thalnos.
I've run out of paper for the number of gallon Snip Snap quotes already. I'm in the second match of the weekend. Meanwhile, the game has actually progressed whilst we've been waiting for these moments, to the point where Casie has incrementally just got bits and pieces ahead of Pavel here. This Grom seems to sit in the hand a lot as well.
I mean, this just kind of goes back to how Pavel's been playing this game. I feel like he's been very liberal with his resources. Stuff like trading that Blastmaster Boom, the boom bots into the Snip Snap earlier. You know, on that turn it didn't matter. He still had a lot more resources, but it's like maybe he could have paced himself a little bit better to actually deal with everything that Casie wants to do.
Yeah, and then 4 turns later you find your 2 cards down through no real reason other than lost a quarter of a card a few times, bit by bit.
I mean, Pavel did have an Omega Devastator at some point in this game, and he doesn't have it anymore. You know, maybe that was the card that he could have saved somehow if he saved his resources to actually deal with the Scrum Ash when it comes down.
Yeah, again, I mean, it was off camera, but you were teaching me just how greedy you can be with a Devastator, and sometimes not even killing a 7/7. It's like, hey, you can kill that with your things that aren't doing much, save it for later. Yeah. Okay, and then suddenly you realize you've got a Devastator.
Generally, if your play is to immediately do Devastator, there might be something better.
This is what I want to see. I want to see Grom being Grom and actually mattering.
That was 10 damage to the face. I feel like that actually matters. How does this line up? Dynamatic does clear the 10-8. Can we get a way of trading it in so that... What you could do is you could trade your Turning Rover instead. You get 1 from the Town Crier, 1 from the Hero Power, 1 from the Turning Rover, and then 5 from the Dynamatic. The problem with that is then you're like using your resources like very liberally.
You also have to make sure your Town Crier is on the board.
Light the fuses!
She's done.
That was actually that was good sequencing from Pavel.
Yeah.
If this is how he's going to do it, which I agree with, he just pushed 1 extra this way. He calculated.
It's not something you do twice.
Yeah, you only need 5. You only need 5 on the ground, or 4 on the ground. So he says, yeah, I can go face with my 1/1. It's fine.
And these are the Bomb Warrior matches that I do find genuinely interesting, when both players are sort of on an awkward health total. But they've still got time to make decisions because they're not outright panicking, but they've chipped away at each other.
I think Casie is going to start running away with this soon, especially with that hero power picked up. That 0-9 is going to turn into a beating very quickly.
Yeah, it looks like a really bad roll until you start thinking how Magnetize works. Like, oh, this thing's nuts.
There's a lot of like random mechs that are really terrible, but you know, in certain spots
would
become
be a good
excellent.
time for
Stuff
a
like
master
Vicious Scrap Hound,
plan.
for example.
Yeah.
2-mana 2/2. Awful. Awful card. But with Rush and with Magnetize, suddenly becomes, you know, a 7-point life swing. Which is ridiculous.
Plus, how do you get rid of this 0-9 conveniently as well? You're going to get a chance to magnetize it so often.
I like how you say not 9.
How would you say it?
0-9. Yeah.
Okay.
This story deserves a new ending.
0.
Pavel just really hates the armor up button.
Yeah, he's just not used it a lot.
Maybe he's allergic to it.
That would be awkward.
You know, maybe it has like a lot of pollen on it. Azalina,
Interesting.
he took it.
I think if you're not sure here and you're behind on cut, yeah, let's take it and see. You've got to get the board, but you might do.
That was actually a really interesting Elysiana. That Azalina could actually like affect the game entirely.
Especially when he plays the first one, because then Casey's got to worry about the second one if he ever gets in that spot too.
And remember, Pavel already used the Brawl this game, right?
Yeah.
Casie
Yeah.
is not going to play around Brawl here.
In fact, he's precisely doing that right now. He's exactly not playing around
Yeah.
ball as you speak.
Pavel got...
Oh my goodness.
Wait. Weren't we supposed to just...
Rover Azalina,
Yeah.
and then get yourself a nice net.
Yeah.
Okay. See, when you're here to correct me, I don't bother making mistakes up front, but that one looked...
That one just looked very questionable. Wouldn't we rather have gotten... Like, our hand doesn't really do anything. We're not going to win with it. We need something good from Casey's hand.
like another Elysiana.
Exactly. Or even just like...
Yeah. Casey cards.
Yeah, Casie card seems better than Pavel cards right now, so I probably would have gone with the Casie cards.
Yeah, Harrison's not doing anything particularly dynamatic. Definitely not doing much.
Casie actually played this turn pretty slowly. He could have gone a Mega Devastator on the 4-5 instead of the third Sim Snap. I think with his game plan, I actually kind of like that, where you go a Mega Devastator on the 4-5, trade it in.
Yeah.
You lose 2 attack on the unpowered Steambot. However, you push a lot. You push like 4. You push 9 in that spot. Pavel goes down to, I want to say, 11 instead of 19.
Yeah, and
Okay, then.
Elysiana cards are generally not that great.
Yes.
So if your opponent's just played it, you can tend to assume their next draw's not going to be that great. And you know they played it because their hand isn't that great as well.
Now you lose the Mega Devastator, which like could be very important. However, I do like just like trying to pressure your opponent out, because if they do have great Elysiana
This
cards,
would be a good time for a master plan.
if they do have great Elysiana cards, the faster you kill them, the less likely they are to see them. You know, you don't want the game to go long when your opponent plays Elysiana. You want to just push them out as soon as possible.
And for me, the playing of this Azalina
This should
this
have
turn
happened last
shows why it should have happened last.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Because now you responded to the accident after it's happened, not before. And this doesn't even look that bad for Casey.
No, I think Casie is still like super far ahead here. He's just got a massive board lead. He can push Pavel out of the game. Pavel misses another blast shield. That's the third one.
If the camera was on us now, with the looks on us, I was like, is he really just not...
It's
he just
becoming kind of a
obviously
meme
thinks
at
it's
this
awful,
point,
right?
honestly.
Just doesn't like it.
Okay, I think Casie might miss the blast shield here. He might just go like Militia Commander Wrench Caliber.
Yeah,
Just
but he's
push,
setting up lethal.
yeah, like
There's a different reason to
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
not
yeah.
healing for 7 if you're going to
Yes.
win.
I agree with that.
And even now, again, taking the KC moment that he doesn't usually take. He knew this was the play he wanted to make. Looked at the shield and thought, okay, just take a second.
I love
It
that.
doesn't need to be 10 minutes.
I love that. Just an extra quick pause to make sure that what you're doing is right.
Because I'm giving up 7 health. Is this correct? And he's decided it is, and you can see why he's decided it is, because Pavel is now in a lot of trouble, even with the missile launcher. Missile launcher.
Missile.
Missile. I can see this degenerating quickly over the next few days.
From Pavel's perspective, you kind of have to go Omega Devastator. You have to give up the button here.
Yeah. The difference is he seems, I mean, obviously you don't want to give up this button, it's the best one in general, I think, but the difference between how comfortably he is giving up the 7 armor compared to this is fascinating.
He goes for it. Snip Snap is quite good. We've seen a lot of those.
I was going to ask you if it was a good card or not, but you beat me to it.
Oh, do you want me to say next time,
You kind of cut off all my... It's like you've seen me cast before. You cut off all my incoming insults before I actually get the chance to set them up.
I think I'm just a very good job at, like, insulting myself. The way I talk.
Just reading your opponent very well. Sorry, your teammate.
Next time I'll
We're all
say-
friends here.
He actually took the upgradable frame bot. I mean, it might be right, but... Oof. And I think that is going to be game. Casie takes his 2-0 with the missile launcher magnetized on his Eternium rover. Dominant performance from Fast Bomb Warrior.
Fast Bomb Warrior gets it done. And I don't think we were convinced beforehand, to be fair. But I think that was Casie knowing the matchup better. Seems to be a big part of it too.
I want to chalk that one up to, I think, a skill edge to find that matchup. I think that Pavel had some very good hands, and I want to say he played them pretty questionably.
Just the rust still showing a little bit from last year. I do think he seems more focused in general, but just the rust, things like blowing up your own minions, is just rust. Pavel's better than that, much, much better than that. But if you're still getting back into it, again, 2018, he didn't play a gigantic amount of Hearthstone. He still managed to rack up like 50 or 60 HCT points or something, but he didn't play a gigantic amount compared to these guys. Just a little bit of rust wearing off. I do think that the way he's focused more and more, he's going to be into it more. But let's have a chat with our winner, Casie. Hey, Casie, can you hear us?
Hello. Yes, I can.
Obviously, the first question is going to be, why this deck?
Like I was on my plane, I was like, I want to play Bomb Warrior, but I don't know what I want to play. And I was like, I don't want to play the same list that I played like 6 weeks ago. Let's ask Fibonacci. Is this deck good? It's fine. It's a clown deck, but you can submit it if you want.
Fibonacci always going to give you an interesting deck to play. Do you feel you played it well? Were you comfortable with it?
I was happy about how I played, but I think I shouldn't have won any of these games by having my Dr. Boom in the bottom every single game while playing a tempo deck and then losing every brawl. I think he probably messed up quite a lot.
There were some things we noticed, yeah.
I think he missed, I want to say 4 blast shields. There's a total of like 28 armor that was missed over the course of the game.
So you're up to 5-4 now. We've also noticed that you're managing to slow down just a touch. Is that a conscious thing or just something that's happening with age?
I don't know. It's just like that I have the deck list on the right and I just look on the deck list all the time. Like,
Cool.
Okay. It's just, I'm slowing down a little bit.
Yeah. I don't actually have a question for you. I just want to point out something that I thought you did that was really good that a lot of people wouldn't spot. You were in a spot where you had not Town Crier, Cruel Taskmaster, and you had a 1-2, and you Cruel Taskmastered your 1-2. Pavel had an Eternium Rover, and you decided to go face instead of trading. I thought that was a really smart way to approach the matchup of just like playing for aggression even from the start, even when that's like an awkward board state where trading just like kind of makes an intuitive sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like Taskmaster is a worse Razormo in this deck, right? You just want to go face. And why I went face is I wanted him to play Snip Snap because Snip Snap on turn 9 is basically unbeatable for my deck, except if I can execute it. So if it's out already, like I'm super happy.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that insight, Casie, and congratulations on another win, getting into those top 3 now. Hope to see more of you over the weekend. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Clown deck.
Yeah.
Casie, I always feel plays better when he's having fun. I mean, everybody does to some extent, but Casie in particular, I feel needs to be having fun to play his best.
He seemed to be having a really good time in that series. There's lots of points where he was just laughing his head off. I think especially with the Elysion and the Dynamatic. I mean, I think he's really enjoying Grandmaster so far. So
Yeah,
it's good
I
to see
think
that.
so too. Let's have a look how that win has helped him, as it is a really important win for him in that division. All the way up from that cluster on 4-4 into clear second place. Obviously, some of those players have games still to come, most of them in fact. But that's a big deal, getting into this top 3 for the playoffs in 3 weeks' time.
Yep.
Very nice for Casie.
This is the week where we're probably going to be breaking up those 4-4 record players. We'll be seeing 5-4s, 6-4s.
Yes.
4 and 6s.
Yeah, 9-0s, 10-0s.
I don't think that's possible for Psychos.
Not for Psycho.
Division B.
The other division, maybe it will happen. But that's 2 matches down, and I think the Hunter match took longer than the Warrior match.
Did you know that if you kill your opponent, which Warrior can do very quickly, they die?
And I think that was a very good showing there from Casie to show how that works out. And maybe you did it a little bit last week. That's 2 matches in the books here in the European Grandmasters, but we've got 3 more for you. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.